Welcome back. You just heard the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, reading out the letter by the lawmaker Abdul Mumin Jibrin after his 180 days of suspension. All right, we'll be going straight to Abuja where we have a guest standby. We have an elder statesman, Dr. Kunle Olajide. Many thanks for joining us. He is also the Secretary General, Yoruba Council of Elders. Many thanks for joining us, Chief. We're looking at the first subject matter this morning, the recall of the budget pardon rebel, like some people have described him. Okay, first of all, I just really want to ask, 180 days of suspension have come and gone. Would you really say that his suspension was in order, and what are we likely to see in the House in the coming days?
Look at that. Said?
We sincerely apologize for that. We will join. We will join Ibadan shortly. But what we have right now, we have an honourable standing by. He is representing Asha Ilorin West Federal Constituency, Honourable Razak Atunwa. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today, Honourable. All right, let's talk about the return of Abdul Mumin Jibrin. What does all of this portend? Are we going to see more discord in the House in the coming days, or we'll just see peace as it is? Okay, I will repeat the question. It's been 180 days, and the embattled House of Representatives member has returned after his apology to the floor. What do we see playing out in the next couple of days after all the controversies that trailed his suspension?
You should take it at face value as for what it is. Abdul Mumin Jibrin was he infringed the House rules. He conducted himself in a certain way, and he was duly investigated and disciplined. Having served his sentence and completed it by apologizing to the House, he was readmitted to the chamber, and of course he is a full-fledged member of this House and will continue to carry on his duties. So there's nothing more to it, there's nothing playing out apart from the fact that the House exercised its right to discipline its members, and Abdul Mumin was so disciplined, came back, apologized, showed remorse, and we get on with our legislative duties.
The news that before his suspension, a can of worms was supposedly opened at the National Assembly. A whole lot of Nigerians were thrown to what was new to them, budget pardon. You know, so in all of this, what would you say the lawmakers have learnt in all of this?
It is quite clear. It's that members of the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, are subject to the House rules, subject to the laws of the land, and subject to the rules which we all signed up to at the commencement of the legislative year, term, should I say. So the lesson is we must be honorable in our dealings, we must conduct ourselves properly, and we must follow the House rules. And in so doing, we must be mindful that our conduct not only has bearing on members of this House, but has a bearing on the public at large. So we are held to a higher standard of behavior than an ordinary citizen, and accordingly we must behave to that higher standard.
Another issue now that we will look at away from the Jibrin matter, let's talk about another thing that is on the top of the lips of most Nigerians, which is the Peace Corps bill, and of course the president's refusal to grant assent to it. From what we hear from the address, the spokesman of the House said last week we will be expecting some sort of veto power being exercised by the House of Representatives. Can you just bring us up to speed as regards that? Okay, let me just repeat the question. Okay, I understand that you can't really hear what I'm asking. Also, the Peace Corps bill is another subject matter that is, being talked about lately. From what we heard last week, the House spokesman said you guys are going to revisit some of the bills, and specifically the Peace Corps bill, and maybe some sort of a veto might be exercised. Can you just bring us up to speed as regards that matter?
I heard you, but what I was about to say is that I can't tell you precisely whether or not the Peace Corps bill will come up for a decision of the House to override the rejection by the President. That's a matter that the House will take in totality. The House will sit down together, will come up with our position, and we'll take a vote on it, whether it's the Peace Corps bill or any other bill indeed. The Constitution provides the powers for the House to override any rejection by the President to assent to a bill. And we will exercise that constitutional right if we deem it fit. But it has to be in the interest of our democracy, in the interest of good governance, and in the interest of the people of this country. It's not a power which or a right which we exercise willy-nilly. It's a right and a power which we will exercise under the most exceptional circumstances, taking account of what is in the best interest of the country.
Yes, still on the Peace Corps thing, I'd like us to look at it from this angle where they said that the President had withheld the assent, saying that, or he sees the Peace Corps thing as something not needed since we have agencies who are already carrying out the same activities they set out to do. Do you agree with this?
Obviously, I don't agree with it because I was a member of the House that passed that bill and forwarded it to the President. So my position as a member of the House is that the House in its wisdom, never mind the nitty-gritty of it, who voted for, who voted against. Once the House has decided, and indeed the Senate has decided, it becomes a bill passed by the National Assembly. So as a member of the National Assembly, I believe that we were right in what we did, and therefore I believe that the President ought to have assented to it. It is the wisdom of the collective of the people of the National Assembly, representing the entire population of Nigeria, all 170 million people, have come to that conclusion, and therefore, in the interest of democracy and good governance, the President ought to have assented to it. You see, one has to be careful when one seeks to veto a bill passed by the National Assembly, whether you're president or not, because the National Assembly, as I say, represents the true representatives of over 170 million people of this country. So to exercise that rejection, that veto of refusing to assent to a bill, ought to be done in the most exceptional circumstances again, and therefore it has to be given the most anxious scrutiny and given the most anxious consideration. Therefore, my view is that any bill passed by the National Assembly, unless there's a valid constitutional reason or valid technical reason, ought to be assented to by the President.
If I got you correctly, would you say the reasons, the concerns that raised by the President were not so valid? And right now, would you say because of all of that, there's a bit of a rift between the executive and the legislature?
There is no feud. Our system of governance is set up in that way. Checks and balances is the order of the day. The Constitution provides for it. It means that we can pass a bill, for example, taking the instant case, and the President may refuse to assent to it. But the Constitution also, by Section 58, says that we have the power to override it. What the Constitution is getting at there is that, look, the President has a right to say, look, let's look at this again because I have concerns with X, Y, Z, and kindly take a look at it. Because in the current form, I wouldn't assent to it. normally we would do that, and because of the committee that exists between the executive and the legislature, we would take a look at any concerns and look at it and amend it and resend it. But nonetheless, we have the ultimate power, and that's why the Constitution in Section 58 is designed that way, and Section 59, which deals with money bill, that's power of appropriation, says that we have the ultimate right, power, to pass a bill to become an act. So there's no feud. It's just set up in a way that we pass a bill, president may have a view about it, we can then override it or accede to that view and make amendments. I think there's much ado about so-called executive legislature feud. What one has to realize is that each arm of government has its own functions, has its own duties, has its own responsibilities. And as long as one doesn't seek to interfere with the other, you are allowed within the ambit of the law to carry out your duties and check the other arm of government.
Mercy, many thanks to Honorable Razak Atunwa, representing Ilorin West Federal Constituency, that's in Kwara State. Many thanks for sharing your thoughts and opinions on these issues with us. We do appreciate it. All right, it's still Galaxy today. Away from Abuja, we are expecting your comments, your questions, your views. If you have any, feel free to participate and join this conversation. You can do that by interacting with us via our various social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, using the hashtag Galaxy Today, or simply by just sending an SMS on the number that is now displayed on air. All right, I understand we have to take a quick break. It's still Galaxy today. Let's just take reactions on the Peace Corps bill. We'll be right back to introduce our guests here in Lagos. Stay with us.
In view of this, we will regazette the Electoral Act itself and expunge the areas that we are in agreement with the President. And in line with the Constitution, we will expunge those areas and then bring back for debate and then follow the procedure of first reading, second reading. We will pass it and retransmit it to the President for assent. That is all I have to say for Electoral Act. However, we are in the process of overwriting the veto of the President on 10 bills. On 10 bills. This excludes Electoral Act. Gentlemen, get it very clearly. The 10 bills are not part of the Electoral Act. We are regazetting, we will debate everything and send it back to the President for assent in terms of Electoral Act. But for the 10 bills, which include even the Peace Corps bill.
Using this opportunity to call on our senators to use their veto power that is enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution. They should use their veto power as senators representing the masses. After all, they are representing us. So if a singular leader refuses to assent to it, thank God there is a condition, also optional, for the senators to assent to that. Now the Nigerian youth should not be denied, should not be neglected by the Buhari-led government. That is why we are saying that if he's denying the youths, we don't know whether he's anti-youths. And the youths cannot wait for him. Part of his promise that he will create employment for youths. And the youths are hungry. For me, I'm not looking for a job. I'm here because I have the passion, I have the love for Nigerian youth.
Peace Corps, no 2019. No Peace Corps, no 2019. Buhari must sign Peace Corps. Hungry won't kill us now. Hungry day. So our brother Ben Bruce and the rest senators must sign the bill. Now must, bros. Now must. He must sign.
All right, welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's Galaxy today. You just heard the views of two Bayelsan youth staging a two-month protest on the president's veto on the Peace Corps bill. A bit hilarious there. But we have a guest here with us in Lagos. Exactly,
we have with us Oke Nwaguma. National Coordinator, Nopren. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Galaxy today.
Good morning. You're still learning my name after several
Your name is something I'm used to anyway. Your first name is actually a name I call like every day.
Okay.
All right, then, so we're looking at, let's start with the youth court thing. Yeah. I mean, you heard the reactions of people. My opinion is not needed here, but then what do you think about the president withholding the assent to this, with the mind that whatever the Peace Corps represents is already represented in other security agencies? Do you buy into this idea?
Well, first of all, let me point out the reasons the president gave for, declining to accent to the bill. First, he talked about the cost implications, that there may not be funds to, fund a new agency, and then secondly, that it duplicates the functions of existing law enforcement agencies, particularly the police and the, national security, and defense corps. Now, during the the points that the president have raised, to me, are very valid. Okay. Because civil society in 2012, we had a panel on police reform, and one of the issues that came forward when we were holding public hearings across the country was this whole penchant, by the government to establish agencies that duplicate the functions of the police. You have the EFCC, you have the ICPC, you have the NDLE, you have, and so many. Of course, the controversy that is trailing Peace Corps now also trailed the NSCDC. Now, the challenge here is that, and of course, we thought that, and if you look at the EFCC, for example, it draws its manpower from the police, and so thereby depleting even the police manpower, and denying the police, it hampers the effectiveness of the police. So what we thought and recommended was the need to harmonize the existing agencies with a view to either merging those that could be merged with the police, and and where merger is not a feasible option, delineate functions so that the functions of the police are clearly understood. Functions of the other agencies, so that there won't be all this this conflict and interagency, and I don't think we need. If the argument, as the House of Reps and the Senate are putting forward, is about creating employment, I think that for me, that is, any measure that will create employment is welcome. But I'm not sure that the motive is truly altruistic.
But then again, if you look at it, looking at the way that the Nigerian police force functions and all of that, a lot of people have come out to say that they are just overburdened with a whole lot of responsibilities, that if some of the functions are taken away from them, they may work more efficiently or more effectively, but then again, just break down the core functions now of the Peace Corps as differentiated by that of a police and of course the NSCDC.
Now, you see, the problem of the police is not so much being overburdened with functions as it is about being denied the funding, the facilities, the equipment, and the manpower to do that job. If you look, I have taken time to look at the differentiation as was made by the Peace Corps, showing their own functions, showing the functions of the police, and I do not see anything. All that the Peace Corps, all the duties that they took upon for themselves are law enforcement functions.
They took the duties by themselves.
Yes,
by the law.
They proposed the bill, and so those functions assigned to them are law enforcement functions. And the argument they're making is that you have Peace Corps in America, you have Peace Corps. Have they taken time to understand what Peace Corps in America does, for instance? Peace Corps in America has no law enforcement duties. They are basically a volunteer organization, providing, technical assistance, educating people outside America about the culture of America. It has nothing to do with law enforcement. So when they try to use that to justify, because for me, if it's about employment. The argument is still on that the Nigerian police is undermanned.
Because from what we hear, sorry to butt in, from what we hear, someone was just giving an analysis, and they say the least member of staff, the Peace Corps, earns about 40,000 naira, and they have over 110,000 employees. So if you translate that to the total in a month, what they should be paying on the average should be about 4 billion naira, and at the end of the year, which will translate to about 50 billion naira, which some states cannot actually account for as IGR.
That actually is about 2/3 of the annual budget of a state in the north. And some of these states are not able to pay salaries.
Okay.
What does an average policeman earn? So for me, and the president says there is no money. There is currently, as we speak, that the Nigerian police is before this parliament with a bill asking for setup of a security trust fund to equip the police. So if it is about employment, we have existing agencies like the police, the defense. These same people can get employed into these agencies.
So are you saying that dissolving Peace Corps and deploying them into the police agency is better than
I think that would be a better option if it's about employment. But I've also told you that I'm aware that the parliament, the House of Reps and Senate are not altruistic. Using employment as a basis is,
so you
is
think
for me
there's an interest?
Is a subterfuge.
You feel there's
I know that there is an interest.
Okay.
This is not the first time we have the parliament trying to create an agency and get a president. We have had a similar agency that the Nigerian Navy opposed, and I'm aware of how much those who were facilitating this were paying to people in the Senate and House of Reps.
Okay, so, we will come back to talk to you, because a whole lot of people have voiced that other argument concerning law enforcement, citing Lagos as an instance where they have multifaceted and diverse, law enforcement agencies and sister agencies. But we'll talk about that when we come back from Ibadan. We understand that our guest in Ibadan is ready. We have Dr. Kunle Olajide, an elder statesman, and he is also the Secretary General, Yoruba Council of Elders. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today. Before we looked at the Peace Corps bill, which we are discussing right now, I wanted to get your opinion very quickly before we get to the core issue this morning about Senator Jibrin, his recall back at the House of Representatives. Do you really see it as a good or a bad omen?
I'm very uncomfortable with the way things are going in this country. The docility of the Nigerian people is very, very worrisome. Jubril was crucified because he was telling the truth. So to me, what that means is that once you are on the side of truth, you will be victimized. So others who want to tell the truth in future will keep their mouth shut. And I think this is most unfortunate. When Jubril was suspended, I was expecting a mass protest by the Nigerian people. And there was no follow-up. 1, 2, 3 weeks after the suspension, life continued as usual. Nobody talked about him. Nobody empathized with him. Nobody insisted on having a formal probe of what he had said, whether it was true or not. And the man spent 180 days out of office because he was on the side of truth, he was on the side of probity, he was on the side of Nigerian people. What type of message does that send to the masses or to the Nigerian people? Well, we thank God that the suspension is over, it's been recalled, but to me, I am still uncomfortable. We are yet to investigate this pardon. We are yet to investigate a number of allegations made by him. And everything has been buried, and we continue as if nothing has happened. And this is in an administration where fighting corruption is one of the key agendas of the government. And there is somebody who was exposing corruption and so on, crucified before our very eyes, and we kept quiet. But for me, I think it is a wake-up call for civil society organizations, and for the media, people like you. You should never stop talking when you see an injustice being done. It is not that you talk for a while and then you shut up. You should keep the tempo up. Continue to complain until the injustice is reversed. But that did not happen in Jubril's case. We abandoned him to his fate, and we just sat back and life continued as usual. So to me, I welcome him. I sympathize with him. I will still urge him to continue to be steadfast in the pursuit of truth. And one day, the Nigerian people and the Nigerian government will appreciate him. He will have his own place in history. But again, the House of Representative leadership will probably have their own place in infamy. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Olajide, let's just talk about the core issue right now, which is the Peace Corps bill. You know, the president had given reasons for not assenting to that bill. He talked about some security concerns. He also talked about that of finance. In your opinions, were his reasons valid, and why is there so much, outcry, so much, wrangling from the National Assembly? Do you think there is an axe to grind in all of this?
I do not think the reasons are valid, as far as I'm concerned. There is no doubting the fact that the police is overburdened, the police is underfunded, and and they cannot cope with the security challenges we have. I hear some people argue that then why not use the fund to fund the police? There is something very defective in the Nigerian police. We inherited the colonial police force, and that's why they called it force. And if you recall, there was a time they wanted to drop the name force. I don't know whether they have succeeded now. Police is a civil organization that is supposed to be the friends of the people. But the type of training that our police have got, the foundation they have had, is such that, in my own humble opinion, I would have supported President signing the Peace Corps bill, so we can lay a proper, solid foundation for this Peace Corps, that it will complement the efforts of the police, and as much as possible, in laying a foundation for the Peace Corps, we will ensure that those ills that had befallen the Nigerian police for a long time will be exterminated, so we will have a civil organization that is for the people, that is friendly to the people, that know the people and know the areas where they are going to function, and they can prevent and anticipate crimes and crises in their respective areas, apart from providing employment. People say, well, if they are going to provide employment, why not give money to the police? Then you increase the population of the police and so on. But personally for me, I don't want to continue building on an organization whose foundation, in my humble opinion, is faulty and defective, and whose structure is not the best for Nigeria. That's the Nigerian police. At a time, I made a suggestion to a member of the Police Service Commission that if we want to be sincere about really reforming the police force, that it might be necessary for us to humbly invite, perhaps Scotland Yard or British police or American police, to come and assist us in the training of our police right from their recruits. You recall that sometimes, I think it was a medium, not your medium here, showed us the police training college in Ikeja. I'm not too sure if much has happened there. Anybody you train in that type of a police college will come out as a beast, because the environment itself is very hostile. The environment is very bad. No water, no sanitation. Look at some police barracks in Nigeria today. They live in very unhealthy situations, overcrowded places and so on. So for me, introducing the Peace Corps would have provided us an opportunity to lay right from foundation the type of peace officers we want to have, That is not to say the police is not doing the bit that they can do, but the funding is very bad. Corruption has been so entrenched in the police force. In spite of all the noises we are hearing, I'm sure on Nigeria highways today there will still be policemen, perhaps collecting their toll fees. You know, so for me, I think it is not a question of funding. And I hear some people say because we don't have money, we can't pay salaries. There is no reason why we cannot pay salaries. I think it is gross misapplication of resources and then wrong priorities by the various states. There is no reason why a state government should be owing salaries at all. At all. So we don't have any excuse. But all said and done, I think the civil population should wake up. There should be civil consciousness. And people should talk. People should wake up. And wherever they are seeing justice, they should shout. So to me, I would have loved the president signing it. Talking about the altruistic motives of the National Assembly, I cannot vouch for them. But what we are seeing here is a manifestation of a government that is really not in charge. Because the same political party controls the National Assembly, the same is in the executive, and yet they cannot function on the same page. Day in, day out, they expose themselves to public odium by disagreeing on fundamental issues. So to me, it appears as if the center cannot hold and things are gradually falling apart. So whether the National Assembly is altruistic in its demand for this peace corps or not, I think peace corps will be in the best interest of Nigeria for a number of reasons. First, the membership will be drawn from their local communities and the states. They will know their states well. They will know their local communities well. They'll be able to anticipate crime. They will know the people, and their training will be such that will make them friends of the people. It's not that you train them to be beasts and they come out as animals and you can now keep telling them to be friendly with the people. So to me, I think we need the Peace Corps. Thank you.
But then let's look at, on your own part, what do you think would be the disadvantage to this? I mean, if this bill refuses to pass, what other threats do you think this will bring? Because some people think this is actually going to reduce the crime rate if the bill is passed, and if it doesn't, what other fears do you think this might lead to?
We are already living with the fears already. We are having escalating crime rates all over Nigeria. There is hardly a day you listen to the news, even on your medium, that you don't hear of people being murdered, the families being killed, housewives being raped, people being kidnapped, and so on. So the fear is real. So as far as I'm concerned, you cannot have development without peace. So I think every effort should be made to ensure that we have peace in Nigeria. I mean, the stories coming out from Nigeria will even frighten foreign investors. You know, and we are now moving towards election. The fear is there that our politicians perhaps might start recruiting unemployed youths now, arming them, giving them money to foment trouble and to harass their political opponents. But with this type of Peace Corps imposition, for example, they'll be able to monitor the environment. They'll be able to know even most of the youths that are unemployed in their locality. So it will be easier to prevent crime, and in case the crimes are committed, it will be easier to apprehend the criminals. But what we have, so if the bill does not go through, if the National Assembly does not succeed in vetoing Mr. President, to me, it will be 2 steps forward, 10 steps backwards.
Elder Olajide, just before we let you go, I want to read out a comment from one of our viewers, and I'll need you to react to it. He says, this is Felix Anyanwu writing from Lagos here. He says, good morning to you all. My take is to reorganize the police force, the Civil Defense Corps, equip and fund them appropriately. The proliferation of agencies will not help the security of this nation. That is what he says. I really want to add, because he says something about the police having a shaky foundation. Don't you think it would be better to put the foundation in order before we erect another building? What do you think? put the foundation in order before we erect another building?
Well, thank you very much. If it is this country that I believe I know very well, we've been on this reformation of police for over 15 years. A lot of committees have been put in place. At a time we had Yusuf, the former Inspector General's committee. At a time we've had series of committees coming up with series of reports, and nothing appears to be done because those who are benefiting from the status quo make it impossible to execute the necessary reforms. And in fact, at a stage, I had to tell a friend of mine who is a member of the Police Service Commission that perhaps what we need to do, if it were possible, is to weed out anybody above the position of, say, Assistant Superintendent of Police and start the training right from the scratch. You see, the Bible says, if the foundation be faulty, what can the righteous do? I don't want to say that I have lost hope in the Nigerian police. I haven't lost hope. Yes, we can continue with the reformation gradually as was suggested by the commentator. But nevertheless, I think any money spent on having an organization that you can from the scratch design to fit into Nigeria's complex situation and manage it in such a way that most of the ills that had befallen the Nigerian police are avoided will be in the best interest of this country. No money spent on maintaining peace and security and welfare of the people, which to me is the paramount duty of any government, is money wasted. That is my position.
Okay, please, I'd just like to read out what someone said here, that he expressed concern over what would happen to the thousands of youths across the country who have been given months of regimental training and still looking at the police force now. Just a suggestion. Do you not think that with what they've been equipped with the whole training, wouldn't it be rather if these youths are channeled or moved into the police force to help probably empower and also work as police agencies instead of as being amongst the Peace Corps? What would you rather suggest? Because I'm thinking, if it's about the employment, would it not rather be that they combine forces with the police instead of establishing a Peace Corps thing? If it's about the employment, would it not rather be that they...
It is not only about employment.
Establishing a Peace Corps.
Okay, what you are suggesting now is this. We want to graft these youths into an already heavily corrupted stem. What you are going to have the new people you are bringing fit into that corruption mode and continue to perpetuate what has been the case. Whereas you can make this an example. If we are serious, if Nigeria is serious, give these people the necessary training, give them the necessary leadership, let them be an example, even to the Nigerian police itself, rather than stem them onto a system that we have been trying to reform in the last 20 years, and the reformation is yet to see the light of day. I don't know whether you've had cause to go into police stations and so on in most of our states. You will shed tears. No facilities. You have to pay for the books to write statements. No funds, nothing. The DPO in my own community, his office was rehabilitated by one of my leaders. I mean, it used to be in shambles. So to me, why not try to raise this Peace Corps organization in a sane environment, giving them the requisite training, the requisite funding, and training them and watching over them to see whether they will make a positive difference. And I'm sure and certain, if we train them properly, they will make a positive difference, rather than grafting them onto police that has been built on a very faulty foundation. And we've seen Inspector General in this country charged with corruption, convicted Inspector General at the highest level. And even today, I mean, if you shine your lights, we've had a lot of petition about the current Inspector General. In fact, there is a case in court affecting a senator who was once an officer of the police. So to me, trying to mend, I think my Lord said, you don't keep patching up an old garment with different clothes. No matter how new the clothes, once you patch up, that will be a source of weakness, and the cloth will still tear apart. So in my humble opinion, I would have loved to see a civil organization managed, trained in such a way to be friends of the people, not colonial masters of the people, not breaking into people's homes at the dead of the night, not harassing travelers, not getting drunk on highways and threatening innocent Nigerian citizens. But if you now graft this Peace Corps to them, you will end up with the same result. Thank you.
Say a very big thank you to Dr. Kunle Olajide, an elder statesman, Secretary General, Yoruba Council of Elders. Many thanks for being a part of the show and sharing your opinions with us this morning. All right, okay, you had Chief's argument on that. Before we went to Ibadan, I asked a question on the proliferation of various security agencies. Take for instance, in Lagos, where we live, we have lots and lots of them. We have the Vigilante Council, we have the Neighborhood Security Watch, we have the police and various arms, so not the police. And so far, a lot of people are saying now, this is one of the reasons why Lagos is relatively peaceful.
Well, before I respond to that, there are some issues
please go ahead.
Chief raised, which I think I need to. One, he talked about the faulty foundation of the Nigerian police.
Yes, yes.
And secondly, he talked about he gave the impression that if you set up an entirely new organization, that they will operate like angels and in a jiffy bring down the level of crime. Now, the faulty foundation of the Nigerian police, yes. Nigerian police is, Nigeria inherited the culture and institutions of the colonial police.
Okay.
And the military rule also helped to cement this culture. Now, the police is not the only institution in Nigeria that has been affected by this culture. An average Nigerian suffers from that same mentality. That is why a Nigerian will tell you, will tell the police to torture somebody. They will threaten you with, I'll take you to SARS, even over a civil dispute. So that mentality, it's not just the Nigerian police. So if we are talking about faulty foundation, we can correct that foundation. And it's because the government has not shown genuine commitment to police reform, to change this mindset, to change this orientation.
Sorry, sorry to butt in. For clarity's sake, you said we can correct the foundation.
Of course.
When you say correct, do you mean by establishing?
No. It's reorientation.
Okay.
We can retraining, changing the force focus, making Nigeria police realize that it's a service organization rather than a force. It's through orientation, through training, and then taking issues of accountability very seriously. Because when a policeman does something wrong and he or she is not punished, it creates impunity. So they need to deal with issues of accountability, training and retraining to change this culture. Now, the same people you're going to recruit into Peace Corps are Nigerians. They are growing up in the same environment. So they're not going to be any different. So we delude ourselves when we think that once we set up because the name is Peace Corps, that they're going to do anything different. No. What we need to do is to focus on the Nigerian police, adequately resource, train and equip the Nigerian police, and they will do whatever. And by the way, Peace Corps is not supposed to be a law enforcement organization, but the way it is being framed here, it's being framed. We don't need another law enforcement organization. Now, coming to Lagos, Lagos is a state. Now, one of the challenges, obstacles to police effectiveness in Nigeria is the fact that the federal government, which has a responsibility over the Nigerian police, is not able to effectively fund the police. Cannot deal with address the problems of the Nigerian police. Nigerian police is so highly centralized, and the whole argument about decentralizing the police, allowing states that can, and we have made this argument that states that think that they can fund their own police should be allowed to set up their own police. If Lagos State thinks it has peculiar, security challenges, it thinks that the police alone cannot deal with, and it has the resources to fund LASMA or, for goodness sake, but for the federal government to set up another agency like Peace Corps when it's not able to address this, it cannot work.
All right, let us take comments right now. A lot of people are reacting concerning what we are looking at. Felix Anyanwu wrote to us again. He says, the police and civil defense corps can absorb these youths if necessary. The Peace Corps members are also Nigerians, same with the existing forces on ground. Let the police be properly equipped and adequately taken care of in terms of remuneration, and they will perform beyond what we know today. Thank you, Felix, for that comment. Julius from Enugu says, it's the big men at the top that spoiled the Nigerian police force. So to other ministries, so as well as other ministries, he says the average Nigerian is dubious and corrupt in life. Well, that opinion well taken. Hashtag sign NPC. Kudos to you, sir, Dr. Kunlo Lajide. God bless you, sir. God bless Nigerian Youth and National Assembly. But but I saw Mr. K. Maguma, Nigerian youths are watching you live. Well, that was very hilarious. Okay, another comment. This from Owuda from Obo Bani. He says the police really needs more orientation and rehabilitation. I'm sure they will do well. Good morning to you, sir, and sirs and ma. I think the National Assembly should override this bill. The Peace Corps deals with securing our immediate community and gathering information. Okay, well, okay. Then what's the place of the vigilante group?
Mm-hmm.
No, the vigilante groups are vigilante groups started initially as self-help community initiatives. Mm-hmm. These were not set up by government.
Okay.
Of course, I would trace it back to Abia State when you had the Bakassi boys. In March, when the police were not able to deal with high crime rates, so they came together and they decided to form a vigilante group for self-defense. But over time, governments in different states began to also set up vigilante groups in communities. Okay. So these are the vigilante groups fall into a different.
Because they have like a national outlook, right? I know there's a vigilante.
Yeah, I think they only operate at
over time now.
Yes.
They have formed the national association.
Okay.
But basically, they remain community initiatives.
But they're not funded by the government.
No, they're not funded by the government.
They're funded by individuals.
Yeah, it's community. It's community effort.
Okay.
And the same argument that people are putting forward to support Peace Corps was put forward for when
the Empire Project or this NSCDC.
Yes, they said, well, because Nigerian police is corrupt, the foundation is faulty, let's start on a clean slate. But today, we are aware of what is happening. The NSCDC is not doing anything different from what Nigerian police are doing in terms of how they relate with citizens, in terms of their conduct. So it's about the environment, the culture. It's not the police that is the problem. Police itself is a product of the same environment. Mm-hmm. And these people who are going to populate Peace Corps also from this environment. So let us address the need to, equip the police and make the police work.
Okay. All right. Please send your comments and your questions. We will treat them. Just do so by sending an SMS on the number now displayed on the screen. And also remember to interact with us on our various social media platforms using the hashtag Galaxy Today. We have yet another view this morning. This one is from Semako from Abulegba here in Lagos. He says, please don't call this number if you have a comment, so just do so by sending us an SMS. Let me read Semako's comment from Abulegba. Say, please, PMB, accept Peace Corps' request and sign the bill into law. He also went on to say that, and remember, empower volunteers just to reduce unemployment. Thank you. Speaking of volunteers and all of that, you said the Vigilante, they started as a volunteer group way back when they had issues in the southeast with the Bakassi and Otoko Saga and all of that. But right now, there are lots of volunteer groups. Now, what happened with that of the Empire? I don't know if you might just want to relate to it, because a viewer mentioned that. The Empire Project, where Nigerians are supposed to be given employment to do voluntary jobs.
That's a government initiative, right?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure how far that one has run, but okay. Basically, Peace Corps, like I did say to you, is it's not just a Nigerian thing, you know. And those who are promoting it are also making reference to America where it also exists. But they've also not told us what Peace Corps in America,
the scope,
what they do. The Peace Corps they are trying to put in place here is basically a law enforcement organization, which for me is not going to run. And if the parliament decides to override the president, it doesn't end there. We then also fund it. If the president, if the federal government is not able to fund the Nigerian police, why are you giving the federal government an additional task to fund another agency? He cannot.
All right. Okay. Let us conclude. Let us take the remainder of the messages that have been sent in. The position of the National Assembly towards the Peace Corps bill is just sheer hatred towards the Nigerian police for its support to the president. This one says, hello Galaxy TV, good morning. Please, my own opinion is that having a Peace Corps is a welcome development that will create employment to our youth. No Peace Corps, no re-election. That's according to you. Don't even start propagating some funny messages. We don't want to.
That sounds like hate speech, actually.
Hate speech, you know. Okay, this one says, this from Dennis Linus. He says, I disagree with Dr. Kunle. When civil defense was created to be civil, don't they end up carrying arms without functions? So I don't see any reason why Peace Corps should be created. When you talk of corruption, they paid money before their names were taken. For this, they will come with high corrupted organizations. So no need for Peace Corps. Okay, let me take the last one. I hope I can do that just before we go. I said the Nigerian Peace Corps is an organization that will help reduce the community crisis going on in the country. That's from Barrister Harrison from Benin in Edo State. Okay, one final words just to conclude on this matter. So Peace Corps is no way to go.
For me, it is not as if I do not want Nigerian youth to get employed, you know. But what I'm saying is that, like I started by saying that the motive is for me it's not quite honest, and I'm surprised also that it's our same parliament that is now talking about the youth how to get employment. I don't know when they became friends of the youth, but I'm saying that they should rather spare devote effort to. I think the parliament and executive should find a way to work together to make this country work rather than keep engaging themselves in conflicts. They should rather try and discuss and understand the point of view of the president so that they can reach an understanding on this issue.
Well said. Many thanks to Okinwa Goma. He is the National Coordinator Network on Police Reforms in Nigeria. He joined us live here in Lagos.
And of course to Honorable Razak Atunwa, Ilorin West Federal Constituency. We want to say thank you so much for being part of this, as well as Dr. Kunle Olajide, Elder Statesman, Secretary General, Yoruba Council of Elders. Thank you for being part of this. And to you who sat back to be lectured, I call it lecture because we've all learned this morning. Thank you. We'll do this same time again tomorrow. I'm Uche Onyekloje. Have a wonderful Tuesday. And I'm Justin Academy. Many thanks for being a part of the show. My device is just buzzing. Lots of comments just pouring in. Let's keep the conversations flowing. Interact with us on our various social media platforms, and you will be glad you did.